What's good? Welcome in. I'm Chase Senior, host of Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports, and coming your way on our NFL Draft channel by Chat Sports, a full 7-round mock draft for the Birds. Now, obviously, this video previously aired on our Eagles channel, and if you're an Eagles fan out there who's not subscribed to Eagles Now, check us out over there for daily coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles. But of course, if you want more NFL draft content, subscribe to our NFL Draft channel right here by Chat Sports. We have a whole crew going to Indianapolis next week for the NFL Scouting Combine, and our coverage is going to be fantastic. We're going to hop in our mock draft bag on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now, which is presented by Roan. I'm wearing their commuter shirt. You can get 20% off on their commuter collection. Roan.com/chatsports. Fantastic menswear. We'll tell you more about them coming up here in just a few moments. So on today's show, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, we appreciate you for rocking and rolling with us here on Eagles Now. A full 7-round mock draft as we hop in our mock draft bag, as I said, and hop in the shoes of general manager Howie Roseman to try to improve this football team. NFL draft coming up at the end of April in Detroit, and the Eagles loaded with 9 total picks in the draft. And what I love about where they are here, 3 picks in the first 3 rounds, or 3 picks in the top 53, 3 picks in the first 3 rounds, and I think the Eagles are going to have a fantastic opportunity to really load up this roster with a couple of young marquee players who can be studs right from the jump, but also some developmental pieces as well. Eagles first on the clock, number 22 overall. Then they have that 50th overall pick from New Orleans. And in round 1, pick number 22, I know that this isn't really a sexy pick for a lot of people out there, but it's one that is right in the wheelhouse for general manager Howie Roseman. And it's a really fantastic player. And Tyler Guyton, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma, who in the future down the road can be your future Lane Johnson replacement. But right now, if Jason Kelce does retire and Cam Jurgens moves over from right guard to center, he's a plug-and-play player at right guard because he has great mobility as an offensive tackle. He'd be fantastic on some of those pull blocks on the interior. He is a massive dude, 6'7", 327 pounds, has all the makings of a future Pro Bowl right tackle in this league. When you watch him, you'll fall in love with his playing style, attitude, toughness, physicality. Does that sound like a bring your lunch pail to work type of guy in the city of the brotherly love? No doubt about it. So he really fits the mindset of Philadelphia. And I talk about him getting out in space on those pull blocks. When he gets to the second level, he can deliver big hits in the run game. Again, it is not a sexy pick. And I can already imagine people are ripping me down in the comment section. Chase Senior is a fraud. But it's an important position. It's a building block. It's a position that the Eagles and Howie Roseman always prioritize. And what's their team building philosophy? Building in the trenches, offensive line, defensive line. And if he ends up being the next Lane Johnson and he's with this team for the next decade plus, it works out and you'll thank me later. Now I'm going to get everybody on my side. Round 2, pick number 50. Howie Roseman addresses linebacker, ladies and gentlemen. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., come back home, linebacker out of Clemson. The Eagles need to address the middle of the field on that defense because they got gashed consistently, and there's been so much buzz because his father, Jeremiah Trotter, the Axeman, played for the Eagles back in the day under legendary defensive coordinator Jim Johnson. Eagles haven't had a linebacker even close to Jeremiah Trotter since then, which is pretty sad. Now, they dropped his son. Now, when you think about Trot, the Axeman, physical beast, didn't shy away from contact, would run right through you to set the tone. Well, with the son, apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Vic Fangio, throughout his coaching career, has experience coaching the linebacking position as a linebackers coach, and as a defensive coordinator and a linebackers coach, he's developed some really good linebackers. And what I love about Trotter, he might struggle sometimes in coverage, but he makes up for it with great instincts and his toughness. And when you get a player like this at number 50, he could be a building block. And I love the value there at a position that you desperately need to address. He can be your middle backer for a really, really long time. Before we continue to keep moving on our 7-round Eagles mock draft, if you want more draft content, we're only getting started. We've already talked about some draft targets in the early draft process here. Chat Sports is going to be sending a crew to the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis, and we have you covered with just some fantastic content. You don't want to miss it, so make sure you lock us in. Hit that sub button as we approach 72,000 subscribers. As I mentioned from the start, today's Philadelphia Eagles Now is sponsored by Rhone. I absolutely love Rhone and what they have to offer. Stretchable fabric, breathable fabric. You can get dress shirts like the one that I'm wearing. I wear this as it is or under a suit. Golf polos, pants, shorts, active wear, classy wear. Get 20% off your order at rhone.com/chatsports and make sure you use the code chatsports. The commuter collection has everything that you need to really enhance your wardrobe, whether it's hosting a show here at Chat Sports, getting a drink after work with some of the Chat Sports homies, or going out on a date to impress the person that you're trying to land or your significant other who knows you very well. So in totality here, high-quality men's clothing, breathable, stretchable fabric, no need to go to the dry cleaner either. So you can invest in these clothes, but then you save money in the long run because wrinkle release technology, and you don't have to go to the dry cleaner, anti-odor technology, because let's say you go out on a date, you have BO and some crappy shirt with kind of the yellow stains underneath your armpits. That's not going to help you out. Dress shirts, polos, pants, shorts, 20% off, code ChatSports, Rhone.com/chatsports. Round 2, pick number 53. We have some great picks at our disposal here early on. And I think that the Eagles need to address wide receiver 3. It's an offensive league. The Eagles really struggled at wide receiver 3 this year, but it's been a blemish on the roster over the last couple of years. So I'm addressing wide receiver 3 inside the top 60 here. And at 53 overall, we have our option at 3 wide receivers, but all are different. You have Xavier Worthy out of Texas, who's a vertical burner, who isn't going to catch a lot of 50-50 balls, but can beat you with his speed. You have Jalen Polk, who has speed, but a little bit more size at 6'2". And then you have a classic shifty slot wide receiver who had great production while at Michigan, fresh off a natty in Roman Wilson, who can win out of the slot. He can get the handoff on some underrounds. He gets some blockers out in front on some of those bubble screens. And against linebackers, he can put them in a blender. But you have Devontae Smith, and you have A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith can catch the 50-50 balls despite his size. And I saw him on Super Bowl Radio Row. He's a little bit bigger than what people give him credit for. A.J. Brown is a physical menace. You need that vertical threat. And that's why I'm going with Xavier Worthy here at 53rd overall. What we've always wanted Quez Watkins to be is what Xavier Worthy is. But unlike Watkins, who played at a small school, Southern Miss, Xavier Worthy played big-time college football at Texas in the Big 12, and he capped off his college career by making it to the college football playoff. A lot of production here. 2021, he bursts onto the scene, 62 catches, 981 yards, and 12 touchdowns. Then in year 2, the numbers go down a little bit, but then in 2023, I thought he was really, really good. 75 catches, more than 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns, vertical threat, a burner, had some issues with drops at times. Again, he's going to struggle with some of those 50-50 catches, but a productive player, a fast player, a scheme fit who I think Kellen Moore can have a lot of fun with. Sticking in round 3, later in this round, let's go Mike Sainristil, slot corner out of Michigan. What I like about him, started his career under Jim Harbaugh as a wide receiver. He switched and transitioned to cornerback and ended up being a great corner for the Michigan Wolverines. Number 1 defense under Jesse Minter, won that national championship. And I really like corners who have ball skills, corners who have ball awareness, who can flip the hips, like a wide receiver, turn around, address the football, high point it, and reel in a pick. Sainristil did that throughout his entire Michigan career. Made big plays, made timely plays, and was an interception machine. And of note here, Avonte Maddox post-June 1 cut would save you $7+ million. You draft Mike Sainristil, and he's a fraction of the price, could be a more durable and better player. And when you scout him, very fluid athlete with those good ball skills and instincts because he played wide out. He was actually pretty productive at wide receiver. He just realized that to be an impact player at the National Football League level, he decided to make the switch to defense. One of 5 players in FBS this past year with 6 picks. And you know what I love? The big playability. 232 interception return yards. Nearly took a pick back to the crib off Michael Penix in the national championship. Eagles don't pick again until round 5, pick 159 overall. And I've said a couple of times here, I wouldn't mind bringing back DeAndre Swift. I also wouldn't mind resetting the running back clock. Rasheen Ali out of Marshall, when he's been playing because injury issues are a concern, has been extremely productive. Unfortunately for him, I think his draft stock is going to dip a little bit because he tore his biceps at the Senior Bowl. And in 2022, he was injured as well. But this year with Marshall, one of the best overall running backs in college football, 7.5 yards per carry, 15 touchdowns, a knack for finding the paint, 212 carries, 1,135 rushing yards. I think that you get him good value here. He's not going to be able to test and go to the scouting combine because of that biceps injury, so that's a little bit of a concern. You're going to have to do your film research. You're really going to have to do a deep dive into the player. But if you think that you can get a productive back year 1 in round 5 for just a cheap price, I think this is a no-brainer here. I would not be opposed to trying to move up into round 4 and getting it back a little bit earlier. To round out our mock draft, round 5, 169, how deep is the history for Iowa tight ends? Very deep. From George Kittle to TJ Hawkinson, Noah Fant. I mean, they have produced so many great tight ends. So I'm going Erick out of Iowa in round 5. And then a pick later, after you get a tight end, 169, because you have to think about post-Dallas Goedert life, right? That's just the reality of how football goes. I love Goedert as a pass catcher and as a blocker. I think that he can be utilized more under Kellen Moore, but you have to think about the future here, and that's what the draft is all about in some instances. Round 5, 170, I like Reed Blankenship. I like Sidney Brown, but let's take a chance on Josh Proctor, safety out of Ohio State, who a lot of teams like maybe in round 4. Round 5, 177, let's get another defensive tackle because Milton Williams, after this year, might be out of your price range. Keith Randolph out of Illinois is a good player. And then the final pick here, Mason McCormick, offensive guard out of South Dakota State. So grade my mock draft A, B, C, D, or F. It is the first one of many that we're going to cook up here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. Hope that all of you were informed and you got some insightful information from today's show. And let me know what you think about my mock. And if you hated it and if it's an F, type F Chase.